Hey everyone. So recently I've been getting some questions, comments, messages, even a few requests to do a video on what type of recording gear I use and the process I go through for recording some of these drum covers that I do. So I decided to put a little something together to hopefully answer some of your questions and give you some of the info that you're looking for, especially since in the last few weeks I've upgraded quite a bit of my equipment, especially in the way of the actual recording interfaces and microphones. So starting with the drums, the kit is a Mapex Saturn Special Edition. This particular Special Edition is made up of birch and walnut plies. The finish is a red to black sparkle fade. The way I have it set up at the moment, I have a 22-inch kick, a 12-inch rack tom, and 14 and 16-inch floor toms. The snare I use is a 14x5 Pearl Brass Sensitone Elite. I bought it about 8 years ago, and at the time I really wanted a brass snare to get that classic sound, the ring, the crack, the volume, all the things you would find in something like a Black Beauty. But I didn't want to break the bank and drop the cash on an actual Black Beauty. So I did my research, found this, and I've been really happy with it ever since I got it. And this has been my go-to snare ever since I got it. I will switch it out every once in a while, but this is primarily the one I use. For drum heads, using all Evans heads. On the kick, I have a GMAD batter head with an EQ3 resonant head. On the snare, I've got a EC1 reverse dot batter head with a Hazy 300 bottom snare head. And all the toms have G2 coated batter heads with G1 clear resonant heads. As far as cymbals, using a set of 14-inch Zildjian A new beat hi-hats, a 16-inch Zildjian A custom crash, as well as an 18-inch Zildjian A custom crash. And for the ride, I've got a 22-inch Sabian AAX Omni ride. Sounds great as a crash, sounds great as a ride. Sabian did an amazing job designing this cymbal with Jojo Mayer, and I just love that thing to death. Moving on to microphones, on the kick I have two mics, one inside, one outside. On the inside, going through the porthole of the bass head, I have an Audix D6, and on the outside I have a Shure Beta 52. The D6 picks up a lot of the attack from the beater, and also picks up a lot of punchy low end. The Beta 52 on the outside picks up a lot of boominess and just really rounds out the fullness of the kick drum sound. On the snare, I also have two microphones, one on the top, one on the bottom. On the top, I have an Audix i5, and on the bottom, a Shure Beta 57. Having that microphone on the bottom, really picks up a lot of the snare wire action. Doesn't take much of adding that into the mix for it to be noticeable, but it's just another one of those subtle details that really helps to round out the sound of the snare. On the rack tom, I have an Audix D2, and on each of the floor toms, an Audix D4. Previously, I was using Shure PG56 microphones on all the toms. Really inexpensive mics, and decent sound for what you get, but these are a noticeable step up, and the improvement in sound is definitely there. For overheads, I'm running a pair of AKG Perception 170 pencil condenser microphones. These are really inexpensive microphones. You can get one brand new for about 60-70 bucks. But I really love the way they pick up the clarity of the cymbals, as well as, you know, the way they pick up the overall sound of the kit. I'm just really satisfied with them, and especially for the price point. And I liked the AKG mic so much that I just picked up another one to mic the hi-hat with. The overheads, you know, they pick up the hi-hat pretty decently, actually, and very clearly and very loudly. But it's also nice to have that extra mic on the hi-hat to kind of control the volume of the hi-hat in the mix. Sometimes you want to accentuate the hi-hat, sometimes the hi-hat drives the rhythm. So it's really nice to be able to have that and control that in the mix when I need to. I have a room mic set up a few feet in front of the kit, and it's level with about the top of the kick drum. That mic is a CAD M177 large diaphragm condenser. Again, another really inexpensive microphone. I think you can pick one up brand new for under $100. But I really like the warmth of this microphone, and having it set up in front of the kit kind of adds a little bit of meat, a little bit of fat, a little bit of overall fullness to the mix of the drums. Beyond the room mic, I have an ambient mic set up around the corner, actually in the kitchen. And that microphone is a Samson CO3 large diaphragm condenser. This microphone actually has a selectable pickup pattern on it. I have it set to Omni mode, which means it basically picks up 360 degrees around the microphone equally. So it'll pick up, you know, it'll pick up the kit directionally, but it also picks up reflections off the walls and things like that. So it adds, the way I like to use it in the mix is to add just a little bit of natural reverb. There are other ways to utilize an ambient microphone. You can crank the compression on it way up and turn it up in the mix for a neat effect. But like I said, I just use it for a little bit of natural reverb. I also have a Yamaha 3-zone electronic drum pad as part of my setup. Every once in a while I like to trigger some sounds. So the 3 zones being, with the 3 zones I can program up to 3 different sounds to use at a time. So the 3 zones, if you hit one side of the rim of the pad, that's 1 zone. The other side of the rim would be 2 zones. And of course, the center of the pad itself is 3 zones. That pad runs to a Yamaha DTXpress module, and that runs MIDI out into the recording interface. And on the computer, I can load up whatever samples I want to trigger. So moving on to the actual recording interface. So the microphones are all running into a PreSonus Audio Box 1818, which has 8 separate mic preamps. And I have the audio box paired with a PreSonus Digimax D8, which is a channel strip with another 8 mic preamps. So all in all, I have a total of 16 mic channels available to use. At the moment, I'm using 12 for all the microphones that I have set up. Everything runs directly into the audio box or the D8. With the exception of the kick and the snare. Those are each on their own separate signal chains before going into the interface. Reason being, so the kick and snare, obviously the most important parts of the drums. Wanted to have a little more control over those two things. So Each of those are first going into a Studio Projects VTB1 preamp. Each of those has independently controllable input and output gains, which is nice, and also has a knob to add tube warmth. So really simple preamps, really inexpensive preamps, but very good in my opinion. And then from the preamp, each of those goes to an FMR Audio RNC, or RNC meaning really nice compressor. I like to add just a subtle amount of compression to the kick and snare, and by subtle I mean really low compression ratio, like only 2:1. And then from there they go into the audio box, and then out to the computer. And my computer is an old gaming laptop that I bought, say 5 or 6 years ago. Haven't really used it in the past couple of years, so decided to convert it into a dedicated recording laptop. So I did that, and the audio box is connected to that computer via USB, and I use Cubase 5 to do all my tracking, recording, and mixing with a pretty small suite of plugins, really. As far as the mixing the drums, all I'm really using are some Waves plugins for EQ and compression, and that is about it. Not much more needed than that. So that's all I got. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, or a lot of your questions, or all of your questions, hopefully. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to know, just feel free to leave a comment or send me a message. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos, my drum covers, and if you like them, hit that like button and subscribe.